Hello and welcome back to Radical Disruption and Happy New Year. I cannot believe that it is already 2024. I hope that you had a wonderful holiday season. Today's episode kicks off part one of a 4-part client spotlight series where I am bringing on a few of my clients to talk about their journey as an entrepreneur and the key pieces that have led them to massive success. Today's guest is Tina. Tina has invested in pretty much all of my offers, and she started diving into my offers around October 2022, with the online blueprint being her very first offer. A little bit more about Tina before we dive into our conversation, though. She has a deep love for the bookish world and has been a big reader her whole life. After a year of having a Bookstagram account, sharing her love for books, forging relationships with authors and publishers, and growing her account from 0 to 90,000 followers, she realized that she had something that many people could benefit from: an understanding and strategy for growing a community in the book niche. After a year, she decided to leave her nonprofit job that she had lost passion for and start her own business in the book niche. Tina now helps debut authors to best-selling authors craft accounts that get their books into hands of people who will love them. She coaches everything bookish towards success, from bookish businesses launching products to helping hobby accounts monetize. And with her and within her first 9 months in business, she hit $100,000 in revenue, built passive income streams, and was working 15 to 20-hour work weeks, all while being a mom of 3 young kids. Her goal now and always will be to build a business that supports the life she wants, which is spending most of her time with family and, of course, reading every day. I am so excited for you to hear from Tina, so let's dive into the episode. Hello, I am so excited. I have Tina here with me, and we were just chatting a little bit before we got started, saying how much we love just chatting with each other. And now we get to continue the conversation with you and dive into her journey. And like I said in the intro, this is part one of 4 of bringing some of my clients on to talk about their journey, people who have really inspired me, who have been really impactful in my own business. And so I'm really excited to have you here, Tina.
Oh my gosh. I'm super excited and I'm like, "What? How I'm inspired by you. That's the only way this works." So that
You're
was
so
really
sweet.
sweet for you to say. Just
I
for
would
real.
No, you're so sweet. I would love for you to dive into a little bit more of your journey. So obviously in the intro, people got a little sneak peek as to
Mhm.
what it is that you do, but how did you get started in the Bookstagram world? And actually, before you dive into that, what is Bookstagram for those who don't know? People are like, "Wait, what are you even talking about?" Can you give a little definition and then tell us
Yes.
about how you got started?
That's a really great question because I had not known what it was for a long time as well. But it's just basically a niche within Instagram. So they call it Bookstagram. And it really is everything that has to do with books. It's authors, readers, writers, publishers, just book businesses, anything that has to do in there. And there's also book talk and there's the book community everywhere on all social media platforms. So that's what Bookstagram is. And how I got started, I have always loved being a reader my entire life. I grew up with my parents' influence and going to libraries and stuff. That was just my obsession. And then it was really, I had been looking at a few accounts on Instagram that were bookstagrammers. I was always like, wow, their life is so cool. They get free books. They're just reading. They post all this content in their reviews. But I don't think I could ever do that. I don't really know where to start with that. It was a friend who she started an account and told me about it, and it was really that was a Christmas Eve, and I was just like, "You did it. Can you just tell me how you did it?" And then I just that night was like, "I'm just going to start it. I don't know what I'm doing. I know I like books, so I'm just going to start an account." And it was really just on a whim, also a long time dream, and I just dove in not really knowing what was going on.
I love that. And in terms of timeline, how many years has it been since you got started? So, like, when was that?
This was when was this? In December? No, December 2021. So it was like the COVID year, which
Yeah.
was gnarly for everybody. And then that was a hard year for me. December 2021 was when I started the account. And then it was 1 year after that, which was December 2022 is when I started my business and basically transitioned it into a whole business. It was really like I had a year of having that account, pure hobby, having a lot of fun, learned a lot, made a lot of relationships with authors, other readers, grew my account from 0 to 90,000. And then just really through that whole experience and the job that I've had for the last 11 years of coaching and mentoring, just realized that I have something that I think a lot of people could benefit from. And I have this understanding and strategy to grow this community in the book niche. It's a humongous, I didn't know how big it was until I started. I was like, this is something really random, but
Yeah.
there are millions of people in this community. And at that same time, I was growing, just spending my time doing something as a hobby.
Yeah.
I had 3 kids. My youngest kid was not even 2 years old. I was working 20, 30 hours a week at my job. And I had this dream to start my own business in the book niche. And a lot of things came together at that time where I was like, okay, I saw an opportunity, made a really scary decision. One of the scariest probably as an adult for sure, where
Yeah.
I quit a stable coaching job that I had for 11 years. I had a family to provide for. I was like, there can't be a plan B. I have this business idea. I don't know if it's going to succeed or fail, but it has to succeed. I have
Yeah.
3 months of severance for this to succeed. And so, yeah, so it's been 10 months now. December 22 is when I transitioned and was like, I'm starting my business and I'm going to teach other bookish creators how to grow and monetize their own platforms organically. And yeah, it's been a wild ride for sure.
Yeah. I want to take a few steps back. So was there like a light bulb moment for you when you were like, oh, I'm gonna just start monetizing? Or was it just like one of those things where it was like you just woke up one day and you're like, I'm just gonna do it and go for it? But I don't know, did you listen to a podcast? Did you see a post on Instagram? What kind of influenced
Yeah.
that decision?
I feel like there wasn't one light bulb moment exactly, but it really was a combination of actually, I started earning money through this account without trying. At first, it was just through collaborations and
Yeah.
people reaching out, and I was, oh, I'm actually seeing a few $1,000s come in. Just a lot of influencer can
Yeah.
do that. And it was really unintentional. And then I had been following you for, I think it was a year, and just seeing your whole journey. And I was like, what? How is she doing all this? And obviously, it really was this combination of wanting something for myself that was a passion, that was something that was mine, this
Yeah.
longtime dream of wanting to start my own business, really seeing you grow your own business. And I was like, wow, that was just so inspirational for me to even see and see you rebrand and pivot from being an Instagram coach to more of an Instagram/business coach combined.
Yeah.
And so that was really big for me to see. And then alongside that, I feel like this light bulb moment was when I was sitting in the car. We were driving up to Northern California for Thanksgiving. And I remember being in the car and just looking at my phone. And my husband was like, how much money have you even earned from your Bookstagram account? I was like, I don't know. And I
Yeah.
just, on my phone in my notes app, typed it all up. And I was like, actually, it's a few $1,000s a month. That's like the same as my income from my job that I'm working 30 hours. What if I went all
Yeah.
in and that's just through brand collaborations. I was like, I could do something but what will it be? And
Yeah.
so at that same time, you had your Black Friday big sales and stuff. When I saw that, is this a sign? I'm just going to buy the online blueprint.
Yeah.
And then that just taught me how to create offers.
Yeah.
I put in my 2 weeks notice, literally the next week of my job. I was
I
like,
love it.
I know how to make offers now. I have this idea. I believe in myself, and that's how that happened.
I love that. For those who are listening and they're like on the verge of, they're like, I want to leave my job. Should I leave my job? I don't know if I should leave my job. What
Mhm.
advice do you have to them?
It's so complicated. Like I wanted, okay, not to throw anything under the bus. I loved my prior job as a nonprofit. I loved mentoring and
Yeah.
coaching young adults and college students. I was really passionate about it. I lost that passion. And it was over this course of several years where I was like, I would like to leave this job. I'm not passionate about it anymore, but I have no idea what I can do next.
Yeah.
The couple pieces of advice was one, I do wish I left sooner just because I was like, this is just not something I'm passionate about anymore.
Yeah.
So sometimes I kick myself where I was like, I should have just took that dive a lot sooner.
Yeah.
But you also realize that, especially when you have kids and a family, a lot of times you're not in a position to to take that risk. I realize that I have a lot of privilege where I have a husband who works and brings in
Yeah.
income. So a lot of times if you're on your own, you have no other option or things like that. And my job also offered 3 months of severance. So I think I just was like, my advice would be start sooner if you
Yeah.
really want that. The second thing would be, it's okay. It all happens in your own time. I was just thinking as well, if I had started this business 10 years ago when I wanted to, or 5 years ago when I wanted to, I would have missed out on a lot of the growth and development that happened on my end along the way. Raising my family, homeschooling my kids, and things like that, where I was really able to devote myself into other things and have a lot of life experiences that brought me to a place where I could do this. I wish I had started sooner, but at the same time, everyone's journey is so different and unique. Everyone
Yeah.
has a lot of different barriers, but
Yeah.
you can't compare one person's journey to another. Accepting and being okay that whatever that time is for you, that's okay as well. I don't know. And then the third thing would just be to go for it. I feel like I've had this conversation with so many people this past year, and a lot of friends or people in the community as well. And everybody's sitting on a dream. I feel like so many people are just sitting on these dreams and are feeling
Yeah.
like, I don't know if I can do it. So it's really just a combination of a lot of factors where, like, is it the right time for you? Is it okay to take that leap of faith?
Yeah.
And my biggest, the thing that's really exciting for me is to help other people make that transition as well, and saying, okay, you just need the tools, the resources, and that opportunity to really jump on that.
Yeah. I also feel like a huge
Yeah.
thing that you were talking about too is not having a plan B, where you're just like, this is
Yeah.
it. I'm going for it and I'm going to make it
Yeah.
work. And I think that so many
Yes.
people do toggle back and forth. And it's not to say
Mm.
that like you can't have multiple passions. It's not to say you can't have
Mhm.
multiple businesses, but I just think that there's
Mhm.
so much power in going all in something and not having that, oh, if this doesn't work out. Cause then like part of you is always, oh, like I'm not
Mhm.
fully dedicated.
Mhm.
And a few years ago, I like to have I don't know, like a word or two words, like a phrase, I guess, like that kind of that I use for the whole year. And so at the beginning
Mm.
of the year in January, I choose that. And my word a few years ago was all in. And that was when I very first, like, I chose that word not knowing that I would start my business that year. And
Mhm.
it just, so many things where I was just like, oh, this was like totally meant to be. But I chose that word when I was in network marketing. And then when I had the opportunity to pivot my business, I was like, let's just see what happens. And I left network marketing, which was
Mhm.
something that I didn't think that I was ever going to leave. And it was
Mhm.
something that I was still actually passionate about. But I was like, there's this other door, there's this other opportunity I'm going to see. And I know that I can't see what it will become if I don't give it my all. And so I went all in. And I
Yeah.
think that's very similar to your journey, where it's just like, this is a decision that I made. I'm going to go all in. Now, a question that I have for you, though, is no one else at the time of you starting your business was doing what you were doing in terms of like
Mhm.
monetizing and in terms of how you were pivoting and shifting. Do you feel, was that scary to you, not having really someone else to look at and be like, oh, they're
Mhm.
doing it, I can do it too? It was like you are the one that is paving the way for others. Like, how has
Mhm.
that been for you?
Ooh, that's a great question. I also have so many things I want to respond to what you just said as well, where I
Go for it.
need to go back really quick, because it really was watching you, a few other people as well, make a transition, start your own business, that all-in mentality. If
Yeah.
I had seen that ahead of me, it would have been a lot harder for me to do it on, just to be like, "I'm gonna do this."
Yeah.
And really investing in watching other people's journeys, including yours, is a huge one, and that was really inspirational for me to say, okay, this is something that is doable.
Yeah.
People out there doing this. And yeah, I just wanted to say that too. And then the other thing is, yes, not having that plan B. I'm glad you picked up on that, because it's so true. I was very scared. There's a lot of scary moments and hard moments in my life that I've been through. This is
Yeah.
one that was like a self-inflicted, I am making an extremely scary decision. And I was like, I am putting my 2 weeks in. And once you're done with this kind of job, it's a
Yeah.
really life change and everything like that. I cried a lot. I was very anxious. And the thing is, back to your question, there was no one else doing what I'm doing. Every day I had a million types of thoughts. One was, this is such a good idea. Why is no one doing this yet? This is amazing. This is going to be great. And
Yeah.
then the next minute, I would be sinking into this depth of despair. This is such a stupid idea. I'm going to be the laughing stock.
Yeah.
I'm going to fail. I had equal measures of, it reminds me of Tangled. When she finally leaves the tower, I literally had that playing in my mind a lot where I was like, this is the best ever. And then she's just crying and sobbing, and I need to go back to
Yeah.
my prison, basically. So yeah, I definitely was really terrified, but I also, my belief in myself was a little greater than that. So thank God for that.
Yeah.
Where I was like, no, I have seen what could happen for me. I really believe that this is going to help so many people. I want to help debut authors, best-selling authors, people who are just like me, make these accounts. I want to help authors get their books into the hands of people who are going to love them. I know I can help them do that.
Yeah.
There are millions of authors out there who want to do that, and I'm like, I know how to help them do that. And I can coach everything in this specifically book niche towards success. I knew that my knowledge could also apply to general Instagram coaching,
Yeah.
but for me, I was like, I can't picture myself doing that. My passion is in the book world.
Yeah.
Is it going to limit me by only helping people in the book world? Should I expand to really all kinds of things? I also in the beginning was I coached a few other types of business, like a photography business, a chef, like there are different
Yeah.
types of things. But then I realized this is where my passion lies. I don't know if that's going to limit me or not, but I'm just going to keep niching down
Yeah.
and spend my time with where my passion's at.
I love that so
Very
much.
scary.
Yeah, yes. Um, and I don't think that like it's meant to not be scary. And I think that's why so many people are just sitting on the sidelines, not pursuing their dreams, is because it is scary and it does
Mhm.
take a lot of courage, and not just courage in getting started, but really every step of the way. There are still times when I'm like, okay, what the heck am I doing? Or I'll wake up some days where I'm like, it'd be kind of nice to just have a 9 to 5 job where I could just like go in and clock
Mhm.
out. And I just think like, again, it takes courage every step of the way, and I think that that's so important to recognize. Is if you're like at the beginning stages and you need that courage, like we're here to support you and here to cheer you on. But if you're like a few years
Yes.
into it or even a few months into it and you're like, hey, I need that courage too, we're here to cheer you on too. We've talked a lot about the beginning stages of your journey. I want to talk about what milestones have you hit recently. So like going, I guess, to like present day right now, but then also we can go back in terms of like how did we get to the milestones that you've hit. So
Yes.
starting out with
Ooh.
what milestones have you hit recently?
Milestones, business milestones specifically, I'm
Yes.
guessing. Okay. In the first 9 months of my business, so it's been 10 months now. So this was just a month ago. I hit 100K revenue, which was mind blowing. I'm going to say that's my biggest milestone. I have a few other ones that I'll share, but that one
Yeah.
was really mind blowing. It was a goal of mine I really was like, if I start this business and if I'm able to make like 4K a month, that is going to be wild. I was just like, that's going to be wild. Like
Yeah.
that, I would consider that a success. But I following you, a couple other people who were talking about, oh, I hit 100K revenue in a year. I was like, what? No way. Can that be me one day? So I do the whole like vision boards and stuff like that, journaling.
Yeah.
And so that was one of my goals when I started out. I was like, could I do 100K in a year? I don't know, but I just write it down. And so I did that. And to see that being hit in 9 months to me I'm blown past that even a month later. And so I was really shocked and still am in disbelief, honestly,
Yeah.
that I could even hit that in the first 9 months of my business. The other thing is that even being able to I think I hit 5K in that first month that I launched,
Yep.
which to me was I was like, what? That's a fluke. Every time I hit a milestone, I'm like, that was a fluke. That's not going to happen again. And then seeing when I was able to hit these consistent, at least 10K months or more, like even that, just seeing that happen for month after month was really reassuring to me, because every time that happened, it was a milestone, but then I was like, well, I don't know if that's going to happen again.
Yeah.
And so it was the building the recurring revenue when I was like, okay, I'm actually building recurring revenue. I'm actually building systems. I'm building passive funnels. And I'm able, a huge thing for me is I'm able to work 15 to 20-hour work weeks. I have a family that I want to spend my time with,
Yeah.
and I don't have all this free time. And I really had to, from the get-go, really create, that's a milestone for me. It's like the 100K, that's a
Yeah.
huge milestone, but another milestone or something worth celebrating for me is I'm able to maintain my work-life balance and only keep this to 15, 20 hours. In the summer, like for 3 months, I was working literally 10 hours a week, but I had built all these passive funnels. A lot of that was through your help. Like I had, taking scalability, what was it, around the clock, like thing. I was even in your mini mind, like just I was able to set myself up so that I could take 3 months of low working
Yeah.
and still see my highest income months. To me, I was like, this is working. This is
Yeah.
really working. And I would say those would be things that to me is worth celebrating, because I don't care about the money if I'm, you know, working myself into the ground and not being able
Yeah.
to see my family. The whole reason I'm doing this, the reason I didn't take a 9 to 5 or something like that, was because I want to spend my time with my family and I want to do the things that I love.
I love that so much. Okay, I have a question for you. This is a big question, but what do you feel like are the biggest factors that you feel like have contributed to your success? If you could give me like 3, 5, I don't know, whatever you feel like in terms of numbers, but what are like the biggest factors? Because I mean, hitting 100K months, or sorry, 100K in 9 months is huge. You're gonna hit 100K months too. We'll come back. We'll do a follow-up part 2
I'll do
episode
a follow
when
up.
we hit 100K months. It's coming. I have no doubt about it whatsoever. But also being able to do that while working very few hours is like so amazing. But for someone who's listening to this, they're like, okay, cool, that's great that you did that, but what does that mean for me? Like, how do I set myself up for success? What would you say?
Ooh, that's a hard question. Okay. The biggest factors into this, I would say, I would actually go back to that first part we were talking about, the all in mentality,
Yeah.
where I'm a very much fly by the seat of my pants in a lot of ways, but I also like to plan and strategize. So I think there was the I'm all in. I don't know exactly how I'm going to get there, but I am 100%. I am not allowing this to fail kind of thing.
Yeah.
Even that belief, even writing out my big goals, my vision for my life. I've done that every year. I'll do that ever since I was a teenager. I've done that.
Yeah.
And it was really like, what kind of life do I want? And really seeing that in my mind. And it's not like a mystical type thing, but it really is okay, I need to see where I want to be. And
Yeah.
that would be one thing. The second thing is you do legitimately need tools and strategies, and legitimately, and like, I'm not just saying this, really taking, following your journey, investing in your courses was huge. I would recommend that 100%. I really would not have had the tools to build an offer suite or
Yeah.
systems. There's so many little things that go into it that I had no idea about, and I really needed to learn those things. And I'm very much a doer, like to a fault.
Oh, you
And so I'm
are.
like,
You are a doer. Anything that I would, even in the mini mind, when I'd be like, you'd ask a question and be like, yeah, you should go do this. The next day, you're like, okay, I did it. What's next? And I'm like, wow, you are a doer. 100%. I can back that up.
oh my gosh. Yeah. I was probably a handful, because I was like, all right, set up that funnel, did my tripwire yesterday. Now what's next?
No, I loved it. I loved it.
Yeah, and such a doer. So it was not only learning those things. I learned from other people as well. I took a few other master classes
Yeah.
and listened to different podcasts, but I would just immediately implement those things and say,
Yeah.
okay, next. And so it was the tools and strategy, actually implementing it and giving myself. And I'm also an 8. I don't know if Enneagram, but 8s are very much, you cannot fail. There's no option for that. And you're always striving to be your best. And I don't think willpower alone can get you there, for sure. That's not even a piece of advice, but more of how my personality played into it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I think really having support is huge. Support from my husband, my family, my close friends, and even people within the community. So big. And I think I would not have been able to pivot had I not. I think this is the visibility piece and the building your brand piece,
Yeah.
where I teach this a lot, where I'm like, you can't just show up and say, all right, I'm starting a business, who's in? And there
Yeah.
will be crickets. Even with the community that I was able to build through my account, this is separate from my family support. That was the number one. But on an Instagram level, that visibility was so huge. Just really investing a year into building my brand, really pouring into the community, putting out free value for a year,
Yeah.
and really honing in on what kind of brand I wanted to be and what kind of presence I wanted to be in the community was so huge. And then to being able to shift into starting a business off of that, you can't really, I don't really think that can be successful without that first.
And I think it makes me think of like all the big names that you would look at in this online space. We're looking at Jenna Kutcher, we're looking at Amy Porterfield. Almost every single person that I can think of had that period of time where they were just giving and giving and building that community. And is that to say that you can't start monetizing right off the bat? No, that's not at all what I'm saying. But also there is just so much importance in having that visibility and building that community. And I 100% agree that because you spent that time, and again, it doesn't have to be like, if you're listening, you're like, I don't have a year to like just be building it. That's totally fine. Everyone's journey is so different. But I think for you, like having that year where you did build this community of people who know and trust you, when you're like, hey, I'm going to start monetizing, these people are like, I'm in. I'm already invested in you. Like, I'm already here. Like, I'm ready for anything that you have to offer. And I think that's so important. I think that's a huge piece that people don't look at when they're like, oh, yeah, like, easy for you. Like, 100K in 9 months. That's great. I could never do that. But I'm not saying that you can't do that. But if you don't have the visibility and, like, you don't have the exposure and you're not putting your time and energy into pouring into building a community and building a brand, and alongside of that, you're building that know, like, trust factor, like, it's going to be pretty hard for you to hit that. And so I think that is so important. And I think you bringing that up, thank you for bringing that up, because I think that's so huge.
Absolutely.
Something else that I want to hit on really quickly is your schedule. So when you're talking about working these 10-hour weeks during the summer, or even now where it's like 15 to 20-hour weeks, like for most people, that's a dream. Like they're like, how is that even possible for you? So what did your schedule look like? How do you go about scheduling out the different tasks that you have to do? Is there some certain like organizational process, like systems? Like give us a rundown on that.
All that. Great question. I could probably talk a long time about it. So to condense it in 2 minutes or something like that. One is that I, just by necessity of being a working mom from when I had my first kid at, I don't know, 24, 25.
Yeah.
And was working. And I had to learn from that point, like, how do I juggle it all? I didn't want to be a stay-at-home mom. I also didn't want to be like a working full-time mom. I wanted it all. And I had to be like, okay, how do I maximize these 2 hours today? How do I maximize nap time? I have 1.5 hours. And my oldest kid is almost going to be 9. She's 8.5 right now. So I've been a mother for nine years basically. And that whole time I've been working, of course, taking maternity leave and things like that. Sometimes I'd be working 5 hours a week, sometimes 10, sometimes 30 during that time. So I think over time, just learning how can you pack a lot in within 1 hour, 2 hours, just knowing how to be efficient, that has been built over a long time. You know what I mean? And so there was that, which isn't really tangible. Sorry for everybody listening.
That's great.
Don't be a mom. No, I'm just kidding. Moms do like a million things and multitask. It's amazing. So the second thing would be really prioritizing the things that need to be done and really having those musts at the top, has always been. A lot of times I'll have even 2 hours to work in a day, and I'll always have my priority list and say, what are the things that must be done? And you always need to do those first. And I also cut out any fluff. I also am very fine with being imperfect. And so that's something that you really have to be okay with. I think, at least for me, I need to be okay with that. And I need to say, you know what, I'm going to give this my all. And I want this resource or this masterclass or this coaching container to be a high value, but it's not going to be perfect. And I'm going to have to be okay with that. I'm going to be able to put out these guides, and there's going to be some mistakes, or I could have spent 5 more hours on it and maybe it could have been way better, but you just have to be okay with the imperfections and saying, no, this is going to deliver. This is going to pack a punch, and I'm going to now move on to my next thing.
Yeah.
And so there's that too. And then I think for content, because being a content creator in and of itself is a full-time job. Let's be
For
honest.
sure. For
Like without
sure.
even starting my business, I was like, this is already a full-time job. Excuse me. Putting out 3 pieces of content a week is a lot. I used to put out one piece of content every single day, which I'm not doing that anymore.
Yeah.
No, I don't know how to do that. But really batching. It was really knowing how to batch your content, really knowing how to have those streamlined systems. I teach that as well. Is really going to be able to move the needle forward. So I think on that content side, having that year to really make a seamless process of, not seamless. Some days it's not seamless. So I'm not going to say that. But getting a lot better at that, and then being able then to add that business component and say, okay, we always need to be priority. The other thing is I would love to build a bigger team. I hired my first person on my team, a copywriter who is helping me a lot in the past 2 months. That's been really helpful.
Yeah.
Hopefully I'll get to a part in my business. Maybe next year I'll have a few more people. That would be amazing. Yeah. And so I'd say just a combination of those things is what I would recommend.
I love that. And when you were talking about prioritizing the most important tasks, how do you go about knowing what is the most important thing to prioritize?
So good. Okay, two answers to that question. One is, okay, so I watched all of your master classes of last year. That was very, very helpful. You talked about income producing activities.
Yeah.
I was like, that makes complete sense.
Yeah.
Also, I come from a family of business owners who, like, I've seen my mom, my dad, my brother, my grandparents, like, them all kill it at business. And so I think watching that modeled, and then plus getting my own training and seeing prioritizing income producing activities. You don't go off and do all these things that aren't going to do that. And so I think really thinking through what are those things each day, which things are really moving the needle, and then which things are, this can wait. And you just have to train yourself in knowing which of those things can wait, or which of those things you just need to let go of. There are so many things. I'm like one of those idea generators where I'm like, I want to do these 500 things and this would be amazing. And I had to, you can, you're amazing. And it would be like, okay, I'm going to not do those 80 ideas and I'm going to stick to this one because I know this is what's going to be best for working in my business and really setting up that foundation. And yeah.
I love that.
Great.
And I also think too, and I think that this is such a, I don't know if cliche is the right word, but we hear this a lot where it's just like, oh, if you give yourself an hour to clean your house, then it'll only take an hour. But if you give yourself 6 hours, but it's like, for me, that is so true in my business where it's like, and this was the huge realization that I had when I went on my trip to Israel a few years ago, where I came back and I was like, okay, when I was in Israel, I gave myself 30 minutes. It's what do I do in these 30 minutes? It's the most important things. Whereas prior to that, I was like, okay, I have 10 hours or 12 hours in a day. It's, yeah, of course I'm going to like not prioritize something that's important. And I'm just going to be like, oh yeah, I can just do it tomorrow. Or I have 5 hours to get done with this task, when instead I could have just said, okay, you have 30 minutes or you have 1 hour. And obviously every task is going to have a different like time frame that you can put on there and like cap yourself. And the more that you do things in your business, the more that you'll also know how long they take. So for example, it's like checking emails. I used to say, okay, well, I'll just check my email a few times per day. Now for me, I check my emails in the morning. I give myself literally a 15-minute limit. I have a limit on my phone. So it cuts me off after 15 minutes. And I'm like, okay, anything that I didn't get to, I can just get to tomorrow. And so I think that's really important too. And again, it's like something that we hear so often where it's, but if you just give but it's so true. It's if you give yourself 2 hours and you're like, I only have 2 hours, what are you going to prioritize? And what are you going to get done in that time frame? I love that so much.
That is so true. And I'm so excited for your motherhood life. I'm just like, oh, I can't wait to watch how you incorporate everything as a mother. Like, I am giddy to see you on that journey. You've already set yourself up so well to run a business and being a mom. I'm just watching from the sidelines. And so something that reminds me of, I didn't have an option to take longer for certain tasks. So it's so true. It's even yesterday I did a timer to be like, I need to finish this workbook that I'm putting out for my class in 20 minutes. That's what I have right now. But it would really be all nap times. Like my child is waking up in 1.5 hours, maybe less. So if I'm not done, it's not going to be done. It's what you got. And or my kids, I pick them up at 2 o'clock every day and then it's done. That's literally, you have very real time limits and it's, you either do it or you literally won't be able to. That really forces you to know what to prioritize, I think.
For sure. Okay, I want to pivot the conversation to totally something different to wrap up. It's one thing for us to achieve something for ourselves, and it's so big to achieve those things for ourselves, like hitting 100K in 9 months, like celebrating the freaking heck out of you. I'm so proud of you. But I also know that you are helping other people to achieve results as well. I would love to hear maybe 1, 2 stories of like exactly how you've helped other people. So maybe examples of how you've helped other people in your space to be able to grow and excel and to hit their goals. Because I know that you're a living, breathing example of achieving it and helping other people to achieve it too.
Oh, thank you so much. I want to tell everybody's stories. Okay, one really fun story that just came to my mind right now is a person who she's also running a Bookstagram account. A lot of people in the book niche are also writers or wanting to publish a book someday. That's not everybody. That's not me. I'm not secretly working on a book or anything, but a lot of people are. And a lot of people start these accounts because they're like, okay, now I'm going to grow this platform. And then I'm going to use this platform to launch my debut book and, become this successful author.
Yeah.
And so that's a lot of people's dreams. And so I work with a lot of people who are in that boat, also people who are not in that boat. But for an example of this person who had been growing her community and she was working full-time, I believe, and also really wanting to rebrand, make that pivot. I really want to be an author. I really want to launch this. I also need to make money so I can reduce hours on my full-time job so I can actually write. That's a huge issue for writers. It's like you work a full-time job and you're expected to write your full books and market and publish them and grow an Instagram account. It's a lot. And for her, I helped her. We did just one-on-one coaching. She might have taken one of my courses, but I helped her really audit her account, see how to actually rebrand and pivot so that her community would be able to see that she is going to be publishing and writing a book. Help set her up with monetization, brand and author collaborations and things like that. She was mind blown. We only worked together for 6 weeks or 2 months, something like that. And she was like, if I was able to make 2K a month, I would be able to reduce my hours at work and I'd be able to spend time writing. And we did that. We literally did that in 6 weeks. So she's like, what? How did I already in this first month make 2 to 3K from all these things that you've taught me? And I've been able to pursue, she's releasing her book. And it's just so amazing to be watching her say, okay, I'm living the life that I had hoped for myself. And I needed to make a lot of these pivots. There was another debut author who I walked with her throughout the whole launching process. She was also working full time, like many people are, having a family and things like that, but was able to be like, okay, this is how you can maximize your time on Instagram. And she's like, how can I like Instagram again? It can be a full-time job if you let it. But we're like, we're not going to do that. And then helping her have a whole book launch strategy and post strategy so that she's able to hit her goals. She was able to top the Amazon charts with her book release and how to keep the momentum going. Because a lot of times with authors, you have your release like a live launch in a lot of ways where you have your whole launch strategy, you launch your book, and then at your like 1 month later, you're like, now what do I do? And how do you keep the momentum going? Yes. It's like, how do you build those funnels? How do you, be still funneling people to purchasing from you and also continue to run your account in such a way that people are going to continue not only following, but joining your community, reading your books and staying so that they're following your author journey for the next books. And one last very quick story, because I was like, these are author stories. I recently worked with a client he's not an author, but a bookstagrammer. And she had a lot of goals as well with, I want to be able to make X amount of money so that I can do X with a family, things like that. And so within that month that we worked together, it's just, I love being able to help people and help them live the life that they want for themselves. Where she was like, how do I make, I don't even know, she wanted to make $2,000 to $4,000 a month.
Yeah.
She wanted to be able to grow her business as well. And by the end of that month container, she was like, I have literally made double the amount that I'm normally making from my account. You have doubled the amount of clients that I was able to intake that I've had in the whole year because of these different strategies. And I now know how to move forward with my business and make a stable income. And so really, just really exciting stuff. I just love being able to be a part of that journey. And I'm legitimately like, I've only seen in the past, since I've started my business 10 months ago now, only more and more people are doing what I'm doing. And so I think it's just gonna keep growing. And so
I love that so much. Thank you for sharing that. Again, you just totally embody everything that you teach, everything that you value. Not that I'm surprised whatsoever, but I'm glad that I was able to ask that question and we could see a little bit more of the impact that you're making. My very last
thank you,
question for
Maya.
you is, where can people find you? If they want to connect with you more, if they want to know more about your offers, where can they find you?
Yes. So I am on Instagram at Books Till Dawn. Really quick, so funny. That was a really random handle I created for myself 2 years ago. But I am at Books Till Dawn, and my website, booktilldawn.com. Those would be the two main places that you can find me, but I'm also on all the places as well. TikTok, Threads, and also just launched a blog. This is going to be released months later, but also have a blog there as well. Find me on my email list, things like that. So that is where you can find me.
Awesome. Thank you so much for being here, for sharing your wealth of knowledge, for sharing your experiences. I adore you. Thank you so much for your time.
I need to say thank you as well. I really tell people I am here because, in a big part, because of you. And so I have to thank you as well for being there with me and giving me all the tools and support and inspiration I need to really start my own journey. So this is surreal. I'm like, how am I here right now?
I appreciate
How is this
you
real?
so much. You are hyping me up way too much. I'm seriously so honored and so grateful to have been a part of your journey. It's been so cool keeping up with you. And like when you message me and you're like, I just did XYZ. I'm like, oh my gosh. It just makes me so happy. And I'm so grateful that I was able to bring you onto the podcast today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me.